So the deck building in this video is gonna be a little out of line, I'm not gonna lie. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today Nyx has given me quite the challenge. So I was originally sent a vintage meme deck list by Nyx, which is built around Reaping the Graves, as well as Glimpse of Nature, and the slightly less mana efficient but similarly functioning Beck Call. So, you'll notice that all of the zero cost creatures in this deck have X in their mana cost, and then would enter with some number of +1/+1 counters. The goal with this deck is to play a Glimpse of Nature. Oh, and there was some fast mana in this deck as well. That's a little bit important. The goal was to cast a Glimpse of Nature, channel together a whole bunch of these zero-cost artifacts, bring them back with Reaping the Graves to continue your Storm line, and eventually, the ultimate plan was put Witherbloom Apprentice in play, which is whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. The goal was to do that and then put Grapeshot on the stack. Grapeshot itself may or may not be lethal, but the Witherbloom Apprentice, each time you cast or copy a spell, should go and put that over the top. And I was asked to change this to Legacy, where we don't get the easy backup plan of just casting a Tinker to immediately put Bolas's Citadel into play, so that you can just chain every card off the top of your library until you very easily do your combo. And my first draft of this was just trying to be faithful to the original idea. So I basically changed up the fast mana that was in the deck, and I built a sideboard where if I thought the Storm combo stuff wasn't going to work, we could just lean into a different Witherbloom Apprentice-based combo. And I goldfished this and tweaked this, and after about 6 games on a couple of different deck lists, I never once was able to line up Reaping the Graves. I was finding that either I did not have enough mana, or I did not have enough zero drops in deck, and like the clunkier, more expensive cards were just getting stopped in my hand. And so I had to abandon the idea fully. And I just kind of sat down and thought to myself, okay, what is actually going to work here? What do we build from? Because I just could not get the mana to work. Tinker was a huge mana cheat. Black Lotus, as well as the other Moxen, were a huge mana cheat. And without those, the deck wasn't functioning. And then that led me to the build that we're going to play today. The sideboard's a little unhinged. Well, I'll justify that in a second. So, the thing that was interesting to me from the original deck list was Galvanic Relay. One of the problems with the deck was that it was often going and then it kind of fizzled out. It just didn't quite work out in some capacity. And Galvanic Relay was a great way to try again. So, for example, in opening hands, I could do something like Mana Confluence, Glimpse of Nature, play 2 or 3 creatures, find some fast mana, Galvanic Relay for 5 to 10 cards, and then try something again next turn. In previous iterations, I had Summoner's Pacts. Summoner's Pact not going for a 0-drop was a really big problem, and I originally wanted Summoner's Pact as additional copies of Witherbloom Apprentice, but in practice, Summoner's Pact was just kind of really bad for me. I thought, the ability to be my win condition and a Simian Spirit Guide was going to be, an Elvish Spirit Guide was going to be good, and that just wasn't the case. And while this deck is still pretty sketchy, it can do the thing a little bit more consistently than the previous version. So I was comfortable enough with the main deck to start trying this out. Note that the original vintage deck list that I was sent was on a fetch land mana base. I think I think the color requirements are strange enough that it doesn't really make sense to play fetches. We're not going to tap Mana Confluence or City of Brass very many times. Like, we are maybe going to make 2 or 3 mana with that over the course of the game. Because I think we're either going to do the thing by about turn 3, or we are going to be literally or effectively dead. Either because we have fizzled, or because our opponent has, 2 Delvers and 3 counterspells. Now, as far as the sideboard goes, I think we are in meme enough territory where it is not correct to try to remove the things that my opponent is doing. There's no Thoughtseizes, there's no counterspells in the main deck or anything like that. Our engine is so weird and fragile that I just don't think we have room for it. So instead, in the sideboard, I'm going to try to gotcha opponents. Barrogoyf over here is a pretty stupid Magic the Gathering card, and it can very easily singularly win a game on its own. If our opponent goes, your spell-based combo, and boards out all of their removal, having 8 Goyfs that we're going to count on our opponent to grow probably will accidentally kill them sometimes. And if I have a bunch of fast mana in my deck already, and my opponent is on some 5-color atrocity of a mana base, or an Eldrazi mana base or something, maybe sometimes just playing a turn 1 Magus of the Moon will steal me a game. And I think that's what this sideboard needs to be about, accidentally winning games. I think you can do this in a number of different ways, so I consider something like Dark Rituals, Leyline of the Voids, Dauthi Voidwalkers, and a couple Helm of Obediences, and just trying to use Glimpse of Natures and 0-drops to draw towards the combo pieces. I considered something like a Doomsday Pivot plan, but ultimately decided the man plan was maybe going to be the most successful of these. So, buckle up. It's going to be wild. I don't know that the deck is going to be good, but hopefully we do the thing a few times and it ends up at least being somewhat entertaining. We are definitely in this deck is sketchy territory, even by the standards of this channel. But if you find today's video entertaining and you think you can do better than what I did, consider picking up the cards for my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. I recently placed an order. They had literally every single card that I needed in stock. I got free shipping on my order, and I got to use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on my own order, which, honestly, is pretty cool. You should do that too. All right, let's battle. All right, so conceptually, when I started goldfishing with this deck, something that I found is that it's often beneficial to wait a turn to go off. So for example, I can Mana Confluence, Glimpse of Nature, Shield Sphere, Phyrexian Walker this turn, but if it does not work, I kind of have nothing left over if I don't find a Galvanic Relay. So I think it is favorable to wait one turn and try to draw another 0-drop or try to draw a Galvanic Relay or something. It becomes more awkward because cards like Thoughtseize and Daze become live. Opponent is mulliganing pretty aggressively. All right, so I think I am going to, for the reasons that I talked about previously, go land pass, but we could get turn 1 by our opponent if they are an opposing combo deck. It is a basic island instead, and a Shuko. All right, so we are playing against a Nadu combo deck. I probably don't get to wait another turn, because Cephalid Illusionist could result in me dying next turn. So, here we go. The Mox Opal was not really what we're looking for as a draw. Opponent hates fun, confirmed. It had to pitch a Cephalid Illusionist. So I could cast a Simian Spirit Guide and try to start hitting my opponent. I think I'm going to just hold my cards and just trust in my deck to randomly present another Glimpse of Nature, Beck Call, or Uzi what's it? Galvanic Relay. Alright, did you have 2 Illusionists? Am I just dead after your mulligan to 5? I am just dead after your mulligan to 5. Alright, so if you haven't seen this combo before, my opponent is now going to repeatedly target Cephalid Illusionist with Shuko to mill their entire deck. And this same combo, generally speaking, is going to work with a Nadu as well, where they can just repeatedly activate Nadu and win the game somehow. I have seen this enough times that I am comfortable conceding here. So, my sideboard creatures probably don't out goldfish my opponent's deck. So we would like to stay on combo, but I think I'm okay boarding these in as just a, like, oh, whoops, you died sort of thing. I think I'm comfortable with that on the play. On the draw, I probably just play the game 1 deck again. We go down 1 Beck, since I just added in some new win conditions, and trim 2/0 drops. Okay, what does this one do? So Spirit Guide, Glimpse of Nature, Walker Shield Sphere as redraw, Mox Opal as 1 mana. I have not hit a land drop yet. I think we YOLO this one. There's a good chance that I'm 1 mana short of Galvanic Relay. But we'll see. So we're just gonna always yield to that and start trying to do our thing. So there's 1 mana towards it. Beck Call is a whiff. I needed that to be another mana source because then I Galvanic Relay and just get a bunch of cards for next turn. So unfortunately, we're just chilling here. I perhaps could have waited 1 turn and drawn 1 more card to have a better chance at Galvanic Relay. They love eat. There is a Nomads. We can die next turn. I think despite the fact that I can die next turn, I don't play anything here. I just don't have enough to realistically do anything. I needed the Galvanic Relay on turn 1. If I waited, I would have drawn the Memnite, gotten another draw, so I would see the next card as well, and potentially been able to Galvanic Relay. So now I could play Mox Opal, Beck, Memnite, Ornithopter. I am a mana short of Galvanic Relay, and I'm probably unlikely to get into Galvanic Relay with just 2 draws. Would need like a Gaia's Cradle. I think I'm waiting. The waiting is just so not favorable for me because as soon as a Nadu comes down, I just don't win. But we just have a little bit too much fat in hand and not enough mana to get there. I could have mulliganed the hand as well. There is a Brainstorm on the other side of the battlefield. We'll see if we die to Cephalid Illusionist immediately. There's a fetch, which is scary. And we do die to Cephalid Illusionist immediately. GG's. See if we can do it in a different round.
Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is, in my opinion, the best Magic the Gathering website for hosting your deck lists online. One of my favorite features is that you can create your own custom tags for when you're deck building. So let's say you're building a commander deck and you want to know, hey, how many copy effects do I have? You can just create a tag and sort everything, and there's fun little hotkeys so that you can do this more quickly. So really, please consider checking them out if you are looking to tinker with deck lists online.
Okay, so opening hand here does not really have a plan. Just putting a Witherbloom Apprentice into play and attacking is not really what we're looking to do here. I think I'm going to keep this one. So with these mana sources, I could Glimpse of Nature and Beck Call, and on turn 2, and then every 0 drop becomes a draw 2. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to get rid of a 0 drop to make that happen, though. Okay, so that just means that we are going to Mana Confluence and pass the turn. Have a Swamp. Oh, are we going to die on turn 1? I hope we don't die on turn 1. Sure looks like we're going to die on turn 1. Fuck. Yeah, no, that's not great. So this is the instant speed Reanimator variant. So my opponent has returned this Grizzlebrand to play and can instantly attack with it. And we may see something like a Children of Corliss pre-combat, or maybe post-combat, to just go and redraw. To gain a bunch of life back and just draw a ton more cards. This deck can sometimes win via something like a Thassa's Oracle or Laboratory Maniac that revolves around an empty library and just physically drawing your entire deck. Or it could just kill me in combat by attacking me for a gajillion D. So now opponent gets to Atraxa. Oh, it's Hapless Researcher. I haven't seen that one in a hot minute. All right, so now I have to make a decision. I'm not technically dead yet. I can choose to concede the game here, and my opponent will have no idea what I'm doing and might think I'm on something like Dredge and board in some Graveyard Hate or something that might not be relevant. Or I can show them the hand and try to beat Atraxa plus whatever else happens with my opponent's 14 to 21 cards. I think it is correct to concede here, unfortunately. So the fair stuff in the sideboard here does not outpace turn 1 combo. And unfortunately, my combo deck is pretty comfortable going off on turn 2, but is pretty risky on turn 1, leaving me in a bad spot. This is a time where the Leyline of the Void, Douthie, Voidwalker type stuff that I originally had in one of the drafts in the sideboard might be very, very powerful. So I have 2 mana here. I don't do anything quite with Galvanic Relay. This one has to be a mulligan. This hand has no card draw. It has to be a mulligan. This is rough now. Now we are getting to the point where raw card count is a problem, and our deck is already more comfortable on 8 cards than anything else. I don't believe this hand is keepable. It does not have 3 mana towards a Galvanic Relay. I might need to just keep it and hope to Galvanic Relay my way to victory later. But these are Spirit Guides instead of something like Lotus Petal that fuels the storm count for this. So if I keep this, pitching these 2 cards, this is a Galvanic Relay, maybe with about a storm count of 3. That's not great. I'm going to go deeper. This I am going to keep. I get to keep 4 of these cards. So I can keep 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Either way, it's not good. What if I play towards drawing Glimpse of Nature off the top, or mana off the top for this? Maybe I just need to keep the largest number of 0 drops here and hope to spike a card that these are good with. Like if I keep all 3 of these and then Glimpse of Nature is the top card of my library, maybe I can win. But we are playing a janky combo engine versus a highly efficient and tested combo engine. Sure. Yeah, there's the graveyard hate that I was talking about. So, mission successful in showing mana confluence. We've got some mana. If my opponent just kept this, assuming that like a turn 1 Douthie Voidwalker was very good and they don't actually have any combo stuff, you know, maybe I can draw out of this. But joke's on you. My deck's bad. I'm going to take 3. I lose the Mem Knight. It's got a point of power. Point of power is not super, super relevant here. But our draws are not great. Expect this is a round where we are just going to get bodied. Yeah, sure. That's not great for me. I think this Spirit Guide is the wrong thing to take, but I think it is very reasonable for my opponent to have no idea what's going on over here, because we are absolutely in brew territory. So I have a little bit of time before the Douthie Voidwalker damage starts to be problematic. The Mana Confluence City of Brass damage is not hyper relevant here, but it is going to be enough damage that it takes a turn off of the clock if I tap both specifically. I am at 8. I'll take 3 more here. I am at 5. And now we're at the point where the City of Brass Mana Confluence damage starts to be pretty scary. Opponent loots. Junk's Harbinger of the Seas. Yep. That's fine. I don't really actually need the colored mana. At this point, I am comfortable conceding. You know, I could play out a Phyrexian Walker, block this, and live 1 turn, but at this point, like, these are islands, and we're probably not going anywhere. Okay. Lotus Petal, Glimpse of Nature. I think I keep this hand and play no card on my turn 1, and we try to go off on turn 2. All it takes is 1 more 0 drop, and like Cradle, double Glimpse of Nature probably goes wild. I could play Gaia's Cradle on turn 1. I think that just makes me worse against Wasteland, though. Yeah, just literal no play first turn. Is an island. Now I am comfortable doing the thing. So we will Lotus Petal. Hopefully this resolves. It's a really big deal for it, too. Main deck Flusterstorm. Well, shit. That kind of just is going to beat my entire deck, huh? I'm going to play out Gaia's Cradle. I think it is less likely that my opponent has Wasteland if they're showing me main deck Flusterstorm. Note Romox. Are we comfortable going? Romox Imprint Beck Call. Glimpse. Multiple draw effects. There's no pressure on me yet. I'm going to try to wait. We might be playing against something like High Tide that is going to give me a little bit more time. No land drop there. Okay, Galvanic Relay. Romox Imprint Beck Call. Yeah, I think this is my moment. Now, my stuff might not resolve still. Imprint Beck Call. Cast Glimpse of Nature. God, there's more of them. That's bullshit. I think we try to make Galvanic Relay work here. Storm is 4. Storm is 5. Storm is 6. Now we have exactly 3 mana for Galvanic Relay. And if you have a third Flusterstorm, I'm going to be upset. Okay, I am going to have a Glimpse of Nature and another Galvanic Relay here. We are doing the thing. Let's see what my opponent does with their own turn. Okay, High Tide. I was correct in my evaluation with the Flusterstorm read. So, if you haven't seen this deck in action before, because it's pretty rare, my opponent is now going to make their islands tap for more than 1 mana and try to repeatedly untap them while drawing a bunch of cards. Oh, wow. That's different. So this is just going to try to ramp out Thought Lash Paradigm Shift combo instead. All right. So green mana, cast Glimpse of Nature. Fucking stop it with these counter spells. All right. Well, this is what Galvanic Relay exists for. So we're now going to churn through as many of these cards as we can. Playing the land drop is fine. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I just double Galvanic Relay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I just double Galvanic Relay here. I don't play Spirit Guide. So Galvanic Relay with Storm into a second Galvanic Relay with Storm. I did hit a Beck call there. So we can attempt to do the thing again next turn. The problem is that this Thought Lash is going to make it pretty hard for me to kill my opponent. My deck is only meant to do so much damage, and if my opponent effectively gains an extra 46 health, that is no bueno for me. Alright, so my opponent is now going to Thassa's Oracle, and then just exile their entire library with Thought Lash. Since they're playing kind of a weirdo deck here, I am going to make them click it out so they can see what their deck list looks like. Okay, so yeah, High Tide is purely a ramp spell to get my opponent to 4 mana cards like Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and Paradigm Shift. Sorry, excuse me, and Thought Lash. So in case you haven't seen this before, Paradigm Shift is the other way they can enable a Thassa's Oracle kill. Also, unless they are in hand, it looks like my opponent has 2 main deck Flusterstorms and just happens to have drawn them both. Tilt. So, do we want the dudes? The Magus of the Moon is not good. The other dudes are playable. My Galvanic Relays are quite good still. My opponent is not actually going to produce very much of a graveyard. And in fact, they might shuffle away their graveyard. I think that means for this game, I stay on the Storm plan. Okay. So, Spirit Guide, Glimpse of Nature, 1 redraw, 1 2 mana currently. I think I keep the hand, but wait a turn to make any plays. Just try to take that extra card draw. That will turn on Flusterstorm, unfortunately. But I think I'm just not guaranteed, and I really want to Galvanic Relay against this opponent. My opponent gets their land drop, and it's just going to pass, presumably has some counter spell available. That does not make me want to go off this turn. I am going to play the Gaia's Cradle. I think I should have done that last turn. So I think I am just waiting. I want at least 2 0-drop creatures in my hand. I'm at the point where I can probably play both Beck Call and Glimpse of Nature at the same time. Are we doing the wizard cycling thing here? No, we are just straight up cycling a Cloud of Fairies. Sure. 3rd land drop and pass. So, I think now we're doing the thing. So, let's attempt a Glimpse of Nature. Alright, that is a Force of Will. So, I can now Lotus Petal, Spirit Guide, Beck Call. If I do that, and my opponent has something like a Flusterstorm, I have used my Lotus Petal mana, so I can't Galvanic Relay afterwards. I think I am just going to pass the turn, because once this land untaps, next turn I could, like, City, Spirit Guide, Beck Call, opponent flusters that, I can play 0 drops and then Galvanic Relay afterwards. Yeah, okay. Opponent is just passing the turn. There's no opposing threat in play, so time is something that I do have. So let's Beck. That is another Force of Will. So now we're going to try to build Storm for Galvanic Relay by playing out all of these various 0 drops, and hope that my opponent does not have a Flusterstorm beyond this. This is a storm count of 7 Galvanic Relay. I hate Magic. Alright. Let's turn this channel into a My Little Pony. No, what is it? Hello Kitty Island Adventure channel. Now I have to like navigate this Flusterstorm to see where my opponent has stacked these things. Because I can pay for 2 of these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there's 7 of these here. So I can pay for 2 of them that only have 1 thing targeting them. This one targets 2. That one targets a Flusterstorm. Can I not in advance see what these are targeting by hovering over them? Not used to having to actually think about this. So this Flusterstorm is making that second one bigger. Oh wait, hold on. Is the reason why this is not showing up is... Oh no. So my opponent has changed the targets of Flusterstorm to Flusterstorm in most of these cases. Will I pay for the one targeting Galvanic Relay? Yes. And then I think my opponent used their Flusterstorm wrong. Yeah. We take that. So will I pay for this one? Yes, I will. Yeah. And then one of these was targeting the original Galvanic Relay. Yeah. Flusterstorm's interface on Magic Online is kind of hell. It is incredibly simple as far as paper play is concerned. Now I am just going to cast multiple Galvanic Relays. Sounds good. So, yeah. Make a ton of generic mana. Take 1 damage for City of Brass. Cast a Galvanic Relay with Storm. This is not going to be worth very many cards, but the 2 of them together will be. And we will get another red mana from here. Cast another Galvanic Relay. And then we can attack for 1 with Memnite. Alright, so I'm going to get flustered here. We'll see if my opponent can figure out the interface this time. It appears that most of these are targeting Flusterstorm still. So that first one gets countered. Looks like the next couple get countered as well. And then I will pay for the original. And I'm going to have a bunch of stuff to do next turn. I attack for 1 with a Memnite. My opponent's at 15. Alright, my opponent has just passed the turn. So we might actually get a kill that does the thing here. So I will cast a Glimpse of Nature. I think it is okay to just do this right now. I will cast a Beck. Now we are off to the races. We have Mox Opal for some bonus mana. We're gonna always yes, always yield. And now each one of these is going to be 2 draws. Potentially more. 3 draws? 3 draws seems fine. We'll Mox Opal. We'll use that to make a blue. I will cast another Beck here. Now at this point, each one of these becomes 3 draws. Always yes. So, now we just need to find a win condition. So, I'm just going to make this smaller since I don't need this for right now. We've got mana. Witherbloom Apprentice is great. That's half of what I need. Opponent is at 15. What am I getting cards in? Sets of like 3? Yeah, I'm getting them in sets of 3, so I have 12. I would like to put 2 Witherbloom Apprentices into play. I can say no to the Becks later on. I think I'm okay to play another one of these. Want Lotus Petal type things. Okay, good, I got Lotus Petal type things. So cast this. Keep that. This is black. Play a Witherbloom Apprentice. Draw a card. Storm is 15. Storm is 16. Storm is 17. Keep that. I've got plenty of spirit guides here. Second, Witherbloom Apprentice. Storm is 18. Beck, draw 2. Now, red spirit guide. Green spirit guide. Galvanic Relay. Witherbloom Apprentice triggers. So my opponent is going to lose some life here. And then this is going to happen. All right. Now, did it take my opponent not knowing how Flusterstorm worked to win a game? Yes, it did. Do we, however, have the screenshot that confirms the theory that this deck is capable of winning a game? We do. So we got that going for us. So now our opponent has seen what we are capable of doing. Do I want the Goyfs? Or do I just want to try to play patiently like I did that game? The problem is that Paradigm Shift is just so much life. I don't know, I'm on the draw. My opponent can be better at just doing a combo attempt. One Force of Will on like this, if I keep this as a strength of my opening hand, is a bit sketchy though. I'm going to try to lean on the fact that Galvanic Relay tends to be good versus counterspell decks and just keep this. This is fine. I have a bunch of 0-drops and a Beck. If the Beck ever resolves, this is fantastic. And we're not trying to go turbo here, so I don't just need everything to go well from the opening hand. Baby-sized Ponder. Regular-sized Ponder. Oh, shit. Let's try to get a Force of Will out of their hand right now. What do you say? All right, we have succeeded. We got Step Through as well. I think with 4 redraws there, even if we fizzle and don't actually kill our opponent on that turn, shit, we maybe go somewhere. Well, I am unsure to what extent I am actually going to be able to execute a full combo here. We may be closer to like sad Memnite beats than anything else. These Becks are very hard to cast. Impossible? Maybe impossible to cast. Let's see where this is going. All right, there's a Galvanic Relay, but this artifact mana is off. So I think I am just now chilling. These cards over here are all probably dead. We put an impressive 1 power into play. And now, like, attacking with Spirit Guides and attacking with Memnites becomes the plan. All right. Attack for 1. 16. You may absolutely brainstorm. After a lock piece like this comes into play, this is where we want those conceptual creatures. Like, versus the decks, like, say, a Moon Stompy deck that can just put lock pieces into play consistently. That is when I know I want the creatures. Whereas versus counterspells, I think I can often rely on Galvanic Relay to do its thing. All right, we've got an Oracle. Are you just playing this as a 1/3 blocker? Because that's surprisingly good right now. So I can now cast a Beck, but I don't have 0-drop creatures. I could cast a Galvanic Relay for an okay storm number. I think I'm just going to pass the turn and take another draw or two, though. Building the storm is relevant. A Spirit Guide. I'm either going to look like a genius or an idiot with no in-between here. I am going to cast Beck with no ability to do anything afterwards. This is fully a bait spell attempt that costs me 2 life, but my opponent is not proactively playing anything, so I think they have counterspells in hand. I'm wrong, and I look like an idiot. But if I took a Flusterstorm, a Force of Will, or a Force of Negation there, that looks very good instead. Note that I was otherwise just going to be discarding or like playing out an artifact in a way that was not profitable. Such is life. Okay, with another Galvanic Relay here, I am now comfortable going for a first Galvanic Relay. So I will cast a Mox Opal. I will cast a Chrome Mox. I am not going to imprint anything under it as it does not make mana. Then I am going to go ahead and cast a Galvanic Relay, getting rid of the green Spirit Guide. This is just a Storm of 4. My opponent drew Consigned to Memory in that. Or no, Consigned to Memory would not have impacted Beck Call. They could have had that already. That's very bad for me. That is a snap to return Thassa's Oracle to hand. That is playing Thassa's Oracle. This is just literally using a fair Thassa's Oracle trigger to adjust card quality. I have a Mighty Ornithopter from Exile. Absolutely. Ouchies. There's Witherbloom Apprentice. There's Ornithopter. This Null Rod is doing some work. But if my opponent is not doing anything that wins the game, maybe I get there eventually. So, we're ignoring all of the fun, cool cards that do cool things. And we are going to cast a Falcon Spirit Guide so that I can attack for 2 each turn with Witherbloom Apprentice and Spirit Guide in combat. Alright, we're having some lag issues here. Alright, there we go. Note that while I do fully believe that the City of Brass Mana Confluence stuff is correct in this deck, because we aren't going to go to this many turns in any reasonable game, my opponent has effectively locked me out of any sort of easy win, but has no ability currently to produce their own win, despite it being turn 9. So that is why we have taken 11 points of damage from our own land here. Fucking Thassa's Oracles. Getting in my way. Now my opponent can double block a Witherbloom Apprentice if I attack with it, so my attacks aren't good anymore. So we are going to go back to attempting a pseudo Storm Witherbloom Apprentice kill. Preferably multiple Witherbloom Apprentices. This will gain me life, though, so I might not die to my own lands. My ideal draw would just be another Witherbloom Apprentice, followed by a 0-drop or something, and then I just go like 0-drop, Galvanic Relay, drain a bunch, go from there. But eventually my opponent will find a Paradigm Shift or whatever. So many Oracles. Note that my opponent's deck does have Snap, so it's not like they are going to be waiting on exactly Thassa's Oracle to finish the game or whatever. I think I'm just waiting further here. I need to deal 15 points of direct damage, so I need a decent storm count before I start thinking about playing Galvanic Relays, I think. Paradigm Shift is going to be a pain in the butt, though. That is an effective more 35 life that I need to go through. I don't know that I have enough cards in library for that to actually happen. Alright, there is a Jace Wielder of Mysteries. So my opponent can just start milling us while drawing extra cards, and that probably gets them somewhere profitable. I think at this point, I gotta just kind of do the thing that is afforded to me. So it'll be a storm count of 3 when I cast this Galvanic Relay. Oh, I keep that Mox Opal. And Galvanic Relay, Witherbloom Apprentice trigger, and Sign to Memory is rough. Alright, so I don't get to attack and pressure this Planeswalker. I don't get to attack and lower my opponent's life total. Half of my library is gone. Surely my opponent will just find a way to win in the next turn or two. Thought Lash. Okay, so my opponent has the kill here. I'm not going to make them click through it. This game has been long enough. GG's. All right, what are we working with here? I'm not getting to 3 mana for this Galvanic Relay. I can only get to 2. I am on the draw. Any mana source gets me to a large Galvanic Relay for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This hand doesn't do everything by itself. I think I'm going to try to believe. Maybe I should not believe in drawing a mana source in this deck. All right, opponent did a quick restart. Now we're off to the races. Another island deck, unfortunately. That is a Kobold. So we're chilling for now. I wonder if it was better to just discard Witherbloom Apprentice there and keep an extra thing for Storm. I don't think so, but it's probably worth thinking about. If a blue... Oh! Is this going to be a Storm deck that is just trying to sacrifice that with, what is it, like Culling Ritual? Okay. So we need any mana source or a Glimpse. There is another basic swamp, notably. Honestly, I respect the flex. Oh, shit. Or is this just going to be the fucking ninjas? This is less cool than I thought. It's just going to be like fucking Kaito. All right. This is very good. So this is just going to be card advantage for my opponent, and then they can redeploy their 0-cost creature. Yeah, so the keyword that my opponent wants there is just the menace. So now we're going to try to have a huge Galvanic Relay turn, and hopefully present a win next turn. Oh, I think my opponent is thinking about Force of Willing a Phyrexian Walker to keep me from Metalcraft. Days, you got it. I will not pay for that. New Phyrexian Walker. The Days actually increases the storm count, which is kind of a huge deal for me. Yeah. So now, with a storm of 6, I get to Galvanic Relay. We have a Glimpse and a Beck Call and a 0-drop creature there. The Elvish Spirit Guides that are in exile aren't particularly good, but that's kind of whatever. And notably, I now have just some things that can block Rog. Rog is not a ninja, so we've got that going for us. But Kaito itself keeps turning back into a creature on my opponent's turn, so there's the replayed island. Kaito stunned my shield sphere so that Kaito could continue attacking in. So we will go ahead and double block this so that my opponent can't get through. I might end up getting a Gaia's Cradle, so I don't think I'm just going to chump block Kaito immediately. Kaito can't activate the Surveil ability again this turn anyway. Oh, okay, well, I suppose that's valid as well. Sure, take your card. All right, so we have Glimpse and Beck Call here, which hopefully can result in a pretty big turn. I'm going to start with a Glimpse. This will be played around Daze. It is Force of Will instead. I'm going to play City of Brass. I could end up hitting a Gaia's Cradle this turn. That would make me want to have not made the land drop, but I think I want to play around Daze when I know that my opponent's deck is playing Daze. All right, so Beck is online. Always yes, and always yield to that. And we'll just kind of see how far this turn can go. The extra bodies are absolutely relevant. All right, we'll just keep churning. So that's the end of this current chain from the look of things. I will keep this Mox Opal. I'm going to go ahead and put Witherbloom Apprentice into play. This will get me one last draw here. Oh, well, okay. We're going. Galvanic Relay. I am unfortunately a little short on mana for that. If that was, one card earlier, we get to Galvanic Relay instead of Witherbloom Apprentice. But hopefully I'll just get to try again later, and it's fine. A Fatal Push. A Murderous Cut, but same concept. Now I can, easily chump block Ingenious Infiltrator and Rog at the same time. Now, notably, I have 2 win conditions in this deck. I have 2 copies of Witherbloom Apprentice. If I lose the second one to a removal spell, things get kinda sketch. So I'm gonna hold this Galvanic Relay. Do I want to cast a Spirit Guide? Is a legitimate 2/2 useful in play for blocking ninjas? I think I've got blocks covered. I'm gonna hold that for probably the turn after I play Galvanic Relay, but it can still be useful for days in some circumstances. And if I draw a Gaia's Cradle, we can start thinking about casting a Simian Spirit Guide during a combo attempt. My opponent wants to play that as a land rather than a spell so that they can cast Kaito. And Kaito can start growing this. Yeah. So I will just Shield Sphere that. The Shield Sphere gets a couple of free blocks on the larger creature. I'm going to try to wait for a better relay. I can Chrome Mox Imprint Spirit Guide Relay. That's not all that exciting. I guess my opponent has a Planeswalker that I can attack now. I'm just, never killing this, though. Let's send a point of damage at their life total directly to just make it easier to get a kill later. 15. This is a weird game. But honestly, I suppose most games are going to be weird, where you reach a mid-game position with this deck. The Tauru the Infiltrator getting online now. So I can take this block, it's a whenever it blocks triggers, not after damage. This would become, I want to block with this one, and then we'll just do some chump on the other one so it doesn't get through, and moved my own turn. So now I probably try a Galvanic Relay turn, because the power is going to very quickly build up on the other side of the battlefield in a way that is not favorable for me. I think we are going to take one, do our very small Galvanic Relay. Land double Shield Sphere is not great unless I top deck a Beck Call. Let's talk about synergy real quick. So Satoru the Infiltrator reads whenever it or one or more other non-token creatures you control enter. If no mana was spent to cast it, draw a card. So your 0 drops in this deck that are there to activate your ninjutsu abilities early on in the game can just turn into, once Satoru is in play, you just draw a card with them. So, you know, all your Ornithopter style cards just turn into cantrips. How big are you? Gosh, a 6/7. Not great. So I think we're kind of at the point where I am just throwing away bodies. And I think I'm going to concede if my next card... Oh, you have Menace. Disgusting. Then let's change this to 2/0/3 blockers. Can't kill more than one at once. Anyway, I think if my next draw is not a combo engine piece that I just need to concede the game here, I'm just going to get buried by all of this stuff at this point. Hell yeah. So we can back for blue and green. The red mana that's under that Chromox is representing here is not actually all that strong. All right. Now I will Shield Sphere. We're going to say always yes, always yield to Beck, and hope to chain through a whole bunch of cards and then do something cool. Ooh. So now my 0 drops become draw 2s. Hopefully I don't miss. This is a pivotal moment. Miss. One last draw. One last draw. Fuck. Yeah, I needed another 0 drop there to continue this going. I think I am now buried. I could play this out for a couple more turns, losing 4 creatures per turn cycle, making the Gaia's Cradle worse. But I think after missing there, I'm not going to get through. I think this is a time where the man plan is good. My opponent has some amount of Fatal Push type stuff, the Murderous Cuts and such, that are going to impact creatures. So I think I'm going to get rid of the slower Beck call here, and I think we're going to get rid of the combo kill, and the plan becomes Glimpse of Nature is redraws towards bodies. Galvanic Relay is redraws towards bodies. I don't think Magus makes sense. I'm going to go a Spirit Guide out and then trim some number of these. Chromox fine. Chromox is just acceleration towards this. All right. Let's see if I am a crazy person or if this works. I mean, it can be both. I'm into it. This is just a hand that is very likely to Galvanic Relay on turn 1 directly. And if it doesn't, like if Glimpse doesn't resolve, I do just get turn 2 Galvanic Relay. Actually, is Galvanic Relay just better than Glimpse? Just bam, 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 bam. Relay. And then I just don't care if my opponent has a Force of Will. No, I think I try to do things on both turn 1 and turn 2. Oh shit, the Glimpse just worked. Sweet. So, we will take a bunch of redraws here and see where this takes us. 1 Spirit Guide or 1 piece of artifact mana gets me to Galvanic Relay immediately. That's just where we're stopping. That's fine. So next turn, I will probably do a small-ish Galvanic Relay with the hope of turn 3 Glimpse stuff. And we'll see where that goes. I do have an Ornithopter for an opposing Ornithopter. Oh, it's got a sweet retro frame one. I mean, do we just do that? If I do that, the Galvanic Relay becomes a lot worse. I would probably want to play this around days. This is not very big yet. I think I'm going to wait. I think I'm going to go Lotus Petal, Opal, take 2, and Relay. Okay. I can get 1 point of chip damage here. And next turn I can maybe just treat this as a cantrip with Glimpse of Nature and a Dark Ritual. Interesting. Deck is certainly weird. Ooh, that's annoying. I mean, this is why we have cards that look like this, though. There's already an instant in grave. No, there's not an instant in graveyard yet. Then I do probably want to do this. So now there's an instant in graveyard. Let's just do this as is. And maybe this creature gets big and annoys our opponent. That's a tapped land and passing the turn. So we will crash in for 5 theoretical points of damage, but it's probably not going to be that much. My opponent passed the turn without using mana here, so something is probably up. It might be that since I showed my opponent Witherbloom Apprentice in game 1, they still have some amount of spot removal, and the Goyf juke does not get there. Alright, looks like my opponent is willing to block here since their Ornithopter is not getting through for ninjutsu purposes. That makes sense. That is a fatal push. So now we're in trouble. The Damping Sphere is going to keep me from really comboing off, and my opponent's creatures are going to wall Memnite. So I think this is the point where I have lost, but it takes another 5 turns for me to lose. We can maybe draw more Goyfs, and we can glimpse to cantrip towards Goyfs. That's terrible for me. Now these are just going to get bigger and outscale my creatures. So this is obviously not great, but this is what I'm doing right now. A Shield Sphere. 2 mana, 2 life to draw a card. Galvanic Relay not happening with the taxation here. So opponent can select for some stuff here. I think they just want more ninjas. Like every Kaito plus is currently adding 2 power, but that scales up for every ninja that you have. That will clear that brainstorm. My opponent's only got 2 cards. They also reasonably could just keep Force of Will blue card to keep me from resolving another thing that looks like this. Alright, Kaito demands a sacrifice. Kaito will kill anything. The Memnite power is probably no longer really relevant. We'll get rid of that. Yeah, there's a follow-up play. A Tameo. 4 additional mana. So, we're going to try to go through some of the cards in hand here. So, Dark Ritual. Oh, fuck, I forgot to flip mana there. So this now costs 5 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cost me an extra life because I did not float that mana. Alright, Storm Trigger, be good. Goyf? Goyf's not bad, but it's not good enough because stun is a thing. Am I just dead to Kaito minus stun that? Probably. It doesn't help me either. Yeah, I think with Kaito stun and Damping Sphere, I think I'm not baiting this anymore. I'm going to go ahead and concede, and I'm going to reboot before the next match. GG's. Alright, final round here. We have not put a match win on the board yet. I think we have 2 game wins. Voice in the sideboard, going to slap against literally whatever deck we are playing against here. Also the Void on 1, unfortunately, will shut off the Glimpse of Nature that made this hand a keep. I have no way to remove that. I think I am just going to discard Glimpse of Nature here rather than playing out any spells. I'm probably dead in game 1 here, assuming that my opponent follows up with a reasonable threat. Ooh, that threat might not even cost my opponent their land. I'm going to discard a Spirit Guide rather than play anything here. The Storm count matters a lot for my Galvanic Relay turn. I'm probably going to need to 2-step a potential kill here. I guess to loot away some stuff that is not strong. And this is the moment where things can get scary. This is where a secondary creature can come down. Magus is not as bad as it could be. It does make Beck very hard to cast, though. Hey, speaking of Beck, there it is. Then it has to be Lotus Petal or a combination of 2 other cards. I think I am discarding Witherbloom Apprentice and trying to keep everything that lets me go wild. This may be a game where I cast 0 spells because my opponent's Chalice on 1 just got me. Reflection of Kiki-Jiki is not currently that big of a problem. But, you know, 1 Broadside or Pyrogoyf style card, and all of a sudden, we are very, very, very dead. So this is 14. Yeah, so that's 4 direct damage this turn. And then, if you haven't seen this interaction before, when you copy a Pyrogoyf with something like Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, the Pyrogoyfs are going to see each other. So your Pyrogoyf enters, it triggers off itself, and the other Pyrogoyf also triggers it. So that's 8 direct damage just from the Pyrogoyf triggers before these other creatures get involved at all. So unfortunately, I am fully dead to that. And then we do this thing. Now, unfortunately, Chalice on 1 is still going to be good against a portion of this. I think we're going to get rid of the Becks that are hard to cast before I trimmed these. Do I still want Witherbloom, Galvanic Relay, or do I just want to treat it as Engine? Treat it as Engine and go down one random thingy? Actually, Metalcraft might matter there. Go down one Relay. This is a keep. Do I Glimpse turn 1? This is currently a 0-1. So I think I Glimpse turn 1. Take a couple of redraws here. And sometimes I will draw a Lotus Petal or a Mox Opal or whatever that just allows me to Goyf as well. So yeah. Field Sphere will also cantrip. Just Chrome Mox the Dark Ritual. I just cast this next turn. I don't think I need to make that decision immediately. It has City of Traders, 3 mana for a Blood Moon. That is not actually a problem. So, Chrome Mox, Imprint Dark Ritual, drop a new mountain, which is not going to hurt me, and then throw this into play. Now, it is currently a 1-2, but I can grow that with Lotus Petal at will. And if this thing actually gets to get in there and deal any combat damage, I will probably grow it by a substantial amount. So I will Lotus Petal, go to combat, send in, after no blocks, just sack this for some random color of mana to grow that to a 2-power creature. And now we mill 2 cards. Yeah, I'll return a Goyf to hand. This was the plan, right? This is why I did this. So now I have 2, 3, 4 creatures in play that will continue to scale up as Goyf keeps hitting. These lands get to come into play untapped without paying life due to Blood Moon. Fable of the Mirrorbreaker is a fine card, but the looting from it may end up being profitable for me. We shall see. I am just going to send in with both of these. I think I am currently the beatdown. My opponent might even block to not let me draw a card. They do not. So this is 3 cards, mill 3, yes, return a Shield Sphere. And I've got blockers for this, so I can just pass the turn for now, holding these for a Galvanic Relay or whatever. Opponent gets to loot. Instant creature, artifact, land. My opponent could add enchantment. They do add enchantment. 4th land drop. Things like the One Ring are live now. And Goyfs are outside of Fury range, which is good. It is the One Ring. That'll buy my opponent some time and give them some important resources. I'll draw. The attack is free. So they get their treasure. I'll just block with a Shield Sphere. And I'm passing my turn here. My opponent gets the Time Walk due to the One Ring. And that Time Walk is particularly good because Fable of the Mirrorbreaker is ticking up. A Pyrogoyf does not kill an opposing Goyf. But if you can then copy it with Fable of the Mirrorbreaker / Reflection of Kiki Jiki, it does. 2 more draws with the One Ring. Chrome Mox. My opponent needs more mana. So this is a Pyrogoyf. So exactly the thing that I was talking about is going to happen here. So Pyrogoyf is going to be the same size as this, meaning that it cannot innately kill this creature. But next turn, when my opponent can copy it and get 2 triggers, they can kill this. So I think next turn I just get overrun. My opponent can chump block my Goyf with Goblin Shaman token this turn. They also apparently need a very large amount of mana. Ooh, it is a broadside. That's another way to just get rid of my Goyf immediately. So they could broadside attack, throw Pyrogoyf, force 6, and then just copy broadside. Even if my opponent just attacks with Goblin Shaman token and throws like treasures and Chrome Mox and stuff, the game will end quickly. But if my opponent finds any Fury, Pyrogoyf, Simian Spirit Guide even, the game ends very quickly. Alright, so goodbye. Good night, sweet prince. I think with that gone and the ability to remove another one if I top deck it with Pyrogoyf, I think I can no longer win. GG's. That is a very rare 0-5 league. Let's talk about what went wrong. And to talk about what went wrong, I want to go back to the original deck list that I was sent. Vintage is a format of incredibly fast and incredibly powerful things. and you need to be able to stop your opponent. So while this original deck list is very neat, is very cool, it's the thing you can do with the card pool. There's no Force of Will here. There's no Flusterstorm here. There's no interaction for powerful opposing lands. Your Tolarian Academies, your Bazaar of Baghdad's, your shops, that sort of stuff. So this is a deck that is trying to do its thing while completely ignoring the opponent. And why is it doing that? Because the engine itself takes up so many slots that it has to do that. And my first draft of this for Legacy was very, very clunky without the fast mana. And my second draft of this that I made was what I would say a functional deck. Maybe not a good deck, but a functional deck. The ratios were maybe a tiny bit off, but generally speaking, the deck was capable of Witherbloom Apprentice plus put a Storm spell on the stack and cantrip through the deck with Glimpse of Nature. So in that capacity, I have successfully ported the idea from Vintage. But the issue with importing this idea is that the deck innately is trying not to interact with the opponent, which is not really something you can do in Legacy unless you are very fast or very consistent at comboing. And while we're fast-ish, we're really a turn 2 combo deck if everything goes right. And a lot of times, since we have like a Galvanic Relay turn on turn 2, we're maybe a turn 3 combo deck when everything goes right. And to be a turn 3 combo deck without having a bunch of interaction, I don't think works in Legacy. And I think if you start trying to put Force of Will in this deck, it just is not supported. And I think if you try to put 1-for-1 interaction cards, your Duresses, your Thoughtseizes and stuff, the Glimpse of Nature chains fall apart pretty quickly. We're playing 32 0-drops in this deck. And of those, removing the mana here, that means we have 22 creatures that cantrip. If you start taking away those creatures to put in interaction, then unless you have multiple Glimpse or Beck calls going, a lot of times I think you just fizzle. So I think innately this is not the sort of deck that you want to be playing in Legacy. This pivot plan, I think conceptually was shown in the last round to have merit. We still lost that game, but after being locked out by a lock piece, having things like this that exist to be a pivot plan, I think is acceptable. Is it better than other like A plus B combos that you could slot into the deck? That I'm not sure about. But Brewers of the World, I hope I have given you some inspiration today. Nix, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you need some cards, folks, you know where to go. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya!